Nietzsche believed that women didn't seduce you with her body. She seduced you with her own reflection. You didn't fall in love with her. You fell in love with the version of yourself she allowed you to see. It wasn't her beauty. It was your need to feel chosen by someone who looked like a dream you've had since childhood, but couldn't explain. You sit across from her. Her eyes meet yours, not too intensely, just enough to keep you tethered. Her smile hovers longer than it should. She laughs at your words, at your pauses, at your hesitations, not in mockery, but with fascination, or what seems like it. And somewhere beneath your skin, something stirs, something primal. Not quite fear, not quite longing, something older than both. A question: why does she feel like a memory you never made, but always waited for? It felt like love, or at least something convincing enough to believe in. She told you that you were different, special, not like the others. You didn't ask for evidence. You accepted it, gratefully. You didn't fall for her. You fell for the man she let you become in her presence. But what if none of it was real? What if chemistry is a code, triggered, not discovered? What if what you call connection is just precise emotional timing? What if love isn't found but fabricated, then sold to you through the most effective drug of all: validation? Nietzsche once said, "Man does not pursue happiness, only the happiness of his idea." So what happens when someone learns to become your idea of happiness? Not through deception, but through design? This isn't about resentment or blame. This is about something much colder, much older. The mechanisms beneath desire, the archetypes hiding in plain sight, the ancient psychology still running behind every swipe, every glance, every intoxicating compliment. Long before dating apps, long before psychology books, long before you ever said she was different. Before we go further, stay with me, because what we're about to unpack goes far deeper than dating, love, or attraction. This is about how your mind, your desires, can be influenced without you ever noticing. It's about Nietzsche's forgotten warnings, how women, consciously or not, can access a kind of psychological leverage that reshapes the way men see themselves. You'll understand why some relationships feel intoxicating, yet leave you emptier than before. Why you fall hardest not for the person, but for the version of yourself they allow you to become. And most importantly, why you might be participating in your own manipulation. So stay until the end. Because once you see what's really happening beneath the surface, you won't be able to unsee it. And that just might change the way you look at her. And yourself, forever. Nietzsche saw it. He named it. You think you chose her, but maybe she chose the version of you that was easiest to control. And you mistook it for love, and you thanked her for it. Friedrich Nietzsche was not your average philosopher. He didn't write to comfort minds, he wrote to disturb them. He didn't seek truth through logic, but through discomfort. His words weren't equations, they were weapons. And nowhere were they sharper than when he spoke about love, desire, and power. To Nietzsche, love was not some divine connection or spiritual union. It was war, a dance of domination disguised as romance. He wrote, "In Revenge and in Love, woman is more barbarous than man," not as an insult, but as a recognition of how deeply women understood the art of emotional leverage. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche warned that morality itself had been twisted by power dynamics, that what we call good or evil is often just a social construct to justify control. Now apply that lens to relationships. The tender confession, the subtle withholding, the way attention is given, then withdrawn. Suddenly, affection becomes currency. Vulnerability becomes strategy. Nietzsche didn't view women as villains. He saw them as masters of survival. In a world built by men, he believed women had evolved a different kind of weapon: psychological influence. Seduction, not as lust, but as manipulation. Charm, not as sincerity, but as leverage. And often, it wasn't even conscious. It was instinct. Passed down through generations, woven into culture, embedded in the way a smile lingers a little too long. He wrote, "Woman wants to be pursued, yet she directs the hunt." That sentence reveals everything. Nietzsche believed men were often intoxicated by their own illusions. They thought they were the ones making the moves, that they were leading the game. But in reality, they were playing on a board someone else had designed. His letters reveal something even more haunting. He once confessed to Lou Andrea Salome, a woman who never returned his love, that what he loved was not her, but what she awakened in him. That insight echoed across his work. We don't love people. We love the reflection of ourselves we see in their eyes. For Nietzsche, attraction wasn't affection. It was affirmation. The deepest form of manipulation, then, isn't what someone says to you. It's how they make you feel about yourself. This is where Nietzsche becomes dangerous, not for what he said about women, but for what he revealed about men, that the strongest chains are the ones you wear willingly when they are disguised as praise, admiration, or love. The battlefield isn't the relationship, it's the ego, and Nietzsche saw it long before the rest of us ever noticed the war. You fell in love with yourself, through her. That flutter in your chest wasn't love, it was validation. Her smile confirmed something you already suspected, that you mattered, that you were worth seeing, that maybe, just maybe, you were finally enough. You believed it not because it was true, but because she gave it form. Her gaze was a mirror, and in it, you saw a version of yourself you desperately wanted to believe in. Nietzsche warned of this illusion. He believed that love, especially for men, was rarely about the other person. It was ego, inflated, distorted, worshipped. The man doesn't fall for the woman, he falls for how he appears in her eyes. Her praise is more intoxicating than her touch. Her admiration, more seductive than her body. She doesn't need to control him. He does it to himself, chasing the high of being seen as a god in someone else's story. This is the secret. You thought her approval was a gift. It was a leash. Software invisible, but strong enough to pull you through fire. Modern psychology confirms what Nietzsche intuited a century ago. Humans don't just seek pleasure, they seek identity reinforcement. The brain doesn't crave love. It craves consistency between who you think you are and how others reflect it. This is why mirroring, the act of subtly mimicking another's behavior, values, or desires, is such a powerful manipulation tool. When someone mirrors you, they're not just making you comfortable, they're making you feel seen. You lower your guard, not out of trust, but out of ego. Then comes intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive behavioral pattern known to psychology. It's when validation is given inconsistently, a compliment here, a cold shoulder there, and I miss you followed by silence. Your mind becomes obsessed, not with her, but with restoring the version of yourself she once made you believe in, the one who was wanted, chosen, desired. You call it passion, it's psychological warfare. Nietzsche wrote, "The man loves the ideal of himself, which has been awakened in him by the woman." He knew that men don't fall for real people. They fall for illusions crafted by emotional architects, and the most skilled ones don't lie. They simply reflect what you already long to hear. You say she understood you, that she believed in you, that she inspired you. Maybe she did. Or maybe she studied your wounds and handed you a mirror polished to perfection. It's easy to call it love when someone shows you the version of yourself you were too scared to face alone. But that's the danger, because once she becomes the mirror, you'll do anything to keep her gaze, even if it means losing who you really are. Desire didn't evolve, it was engineered. Nietzsche once warned that society fabricates illusions, not to liberate you, but to keep you docile, to tame your instincts, to rewrite your impulses. What he couldn't have predicted was how far we would take it, how we would hand over our emotions to machines, to metry, to algorithms that don't just track what you want, but teach you what to want. Look at your screen. Every scroll, every like, every click refines a formula. You're not just being entertained, you're being shaped to crave validation, shaped to seek aesthetics over authenticity, shaped to confuse longing with value. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the realm of attraction. The average dating app is not a place for connection. It's a psychological trap, a gamified interface designed to condition your brain. Every swipe trains you, reinforces superficial desire, distorts standards, dehumanizes intimacy. You're not choosing a partner. You're being taught what should turn you on. Thirst traps, strategic images crafted to awaken your dopamine circuits, aren't random. They're calculated, not just by the person posting them, but by the system amplifying them. You think you're the observer, you're the experiment, and the experiment is working. The pick-me phenomenon isn't about authenticity, it's about survival. A subtle form of competitive manipulation. It's not that women are more deceitful, it's that social media has made everyone a performer. Men perform strength, women perform submission. Both chase engagement over meaning, because meaning doesn't trend, illusion does. Influencer culture isn't built on truth, it's built on projection, a weaponization of attention. When someone looks into a camera and says you deserve better, they aren't talking to you. They're fishing for your reflection. They want your eyes, your insecurities. You're longing to be seen, and it works because desire is no longer internal, it's responsive. It adapts to the most effective illusion. You don't fall for who someone is. You fall for how well they replicate what the world told you you're supposed to want. Nietzsche believed that humanity is driven not by truth, but by the will to power, the need to assert meaning in a meaningless world. In modern culture, power isn't about dominance, it's about perception. The more someone controls how they're perceived, the more power they hold. Online, that power becomes exponential. She doesn't need to know you, she only needs to reflect the idea you've already been programmed to crave. This is the chilling truth. You don't choose who you desire. You desire whoever best mirrors your ego's missing pieces. And those pieces were never really yours to begin with. So you chase, swipe, scroll. You build altars out of aesthetics. You confuse digital intimacy for depth. You fall for people you've never touched, never heard, never really seen, not because they're special, but because they learned how to cast the same spell Nietzsche warned about. A spell that doesn't need magic, just a mirror and the right lighting. It starts subtly, a face on a screen, a glance, a smirk, a filtered expression, just believable enough to feel real. And yet not quite. Something about it grabs you, not because it's honest, but because it's engineered to bypass your defenses. Desire today is no longer a natural instinct. It's a product, curated, sculpted, marketed back to you through the smooth machinery of social algorithms. You think you're attracted to her, but what if you've been trained to be? Nietzsche warned that truth wasn't a fixed thing. It was a story told by those in power. Now imagine that power not in the hands of kings or clergy, but in the hands of code. Algorithms that decide what you see, what you think is beautiful, who is worthy of your longing. What once came from within is now a loop. Your preferences aren't yours. They're data. The digital landscape is a hyper-stimulated stage of illusions. She posts a photo, not by accident, not in passing, but with precision, a glance over the shoulder, a quote about healing, a well-placed caption that sounds vulnerable, but conceals control. It's bait, and yet you don't feel manipulated. You feel drawn in. That's the brilliance of the spell. Thirst traps are not about sex. They're about suggestion, the power of withholding. They ignite not your body, but your imagination, because the image doesn't give you everything. It gives you just enough to complete the fantasy yourself. The pick-me phenomenon is no different. It's performance under the guise of humility. She doesn't need to scream for your attention. She whispers it. She lowers herself not to seem less, but to seem safe, desirable, non-threatening. In a world flooded with ego, submission becomes the ultimate seduction, and you respond, not because you understand her, but because she reflects the version of masculinity the world has told you is fading. She gives you a role, a purpose, a script in a society where most men feel like extras. Influencer culture takes it even further. Now desire scales, not one admirer, but thousands, millions. Parasocial dynamics blur the lines between connection and consumption. You think you're watching her, following her, but really you're orbiting her brand. A brand built not on truth, but on projection. It feels intimate, yet it's the opposite. This isn't closeness, it's design. A meticulously crafted echo chamber where your attention feeds her relevance, and her relevance feeds your illusion of significance. Nietzsche said that humans don't seek truth, they seek meaning. But in a world where meaning is manufactured, perception becomes the throne. Whoever controls how they're seen controls how they're desired. And here's the unsettling realization. You don't fall for who someone is. You fall for who they appear to be at the intersection of your wounds, your wants, and your unconscious programming. You were never the chooser. You were the mirror's subject, programmed not to think, but to respond. So ask yourself, when you crave her, who are you really chasing? Her? Or the version of yourself she reflects back with just the right filter, just the right smile, and just enough mystery to keep you addicted to your own reflection? She is everywhere, and yet nowhere. You've met her in stories before you ever met her in life. She was Eve, offering the fruit, Pandora opening the box, Lilith whispering from the dark. She's the one who tempts, who lures, who smiles with just enough mystery to make you question yourself. And still, you chase her. Not in spite of the danger, but because of it. Carl Jung called her the anima, the archetype of the feminine that lives inside every man's unconscious mind. She isn't a woman. She's the idea of woman, the muse, the mystery, the shadow. She holds no form, yet every face becomes hers. In myth, she appears as salvation, but her gift is never free. Her power lies in awakening something within you, and then vanishing before you can name it. Nietzsche understood this too, though in different terms. To him, the eternal feminine was not just a symbol, it was a force, one that doesn't need to dominate physically because it rules emotionally. He didn't believe women were consciously manipulative. He believed culture had evolved in a way that trained them to survive not through violence, but through psychological mastery. This wasn't malice, it was adaptation. In a world built by men for men, Nietzsche saw women as navigating power through indirect means: charm, seduction, intuition, emotional leverage. Not because they were weaker, but because they had to be smarter. And over generations, this evolved into an unconscious art form. The feminine mystique became a form of influence so effective, it didn't need to name itself. You'd feel it, in the way she withholds approval, in the silence after you try to impress her, in the calculated unpredictability that leaves you wanting more. It's not deception, it's design. Whether learned or inherited, it works because it speaks to your deepest, unspoken need: to be chosen, to feel worthy in the gaze of someone who seems just out of reach. Religion encoded this archetype long ago. Eve doesn't just eat the apple, she offers it. Pandora doesn't destroy the world, she opens it. The myth never blames the act. It blames the influence, the spell. And somehow, she always walks away untouched, while the man is left dealing with consequence. Pop culture recycled this blueprint. The femme fatale, the dream girl, the emotionally unavailable enigma. We consume these characters because they echo something older than cinema, something woven into us. This isn't about blaming women. It's about recognizing a script that plays on loop, unnoticed. A script that tells women to seduce subtly and men to find meaning through pursuit. But what if the most dangerous form of control is the one you don't recognize as control at all? What if the greatest trick this archetype ever pulled was convincing you that your desire was your own? And what if every time you chase her, you're not chasing love? You're chasing a story someone else wrote long before you were born? You saw the signs, the pause in her praise, the shift in her tone, the small, quiet retraction of warmth that left you wondering what you'd done wrong. You noticed it, didn't you? The way her attention became unpredictable, the way your worth began to feel conditional, measured by her moods, her silences, her gaze, and still, you stayed. Why? Nietzsche would have said it's because truth is unbearable, that people do not seek it, they flee from it. Not into lies, but into illusions that feel like love. You didn't just fall for her. You fell for the comfort of being seen, for the fantasy of being chosen. You didn't need her approval. You craved the feeling it gave you, the affirmation that you were enough, even if only for a moment. That craving wasn't weakness, it was human. Nietzsche called it slave morality, a state of mind where we accept chains, as long as they come with a sense of belonging. It's easier to surrender your power if the illusion is beautiful, if it tells you that you matter, if it rewards your obedience with fleeting affection. You didn't fall victim to manipulation. You participated in it. You helped sustain it because it felt good. Deep down, you sense it wasn't real. The pedestal, the praise, the emotional rhythm designed to keep you slightly off balance. But realness doesn't always feel good. Certainty doesn't always seduce. So you chose the spell, again and again. You say you were betrayed, lied to, played. But what if the betrayal wasn't hers? What if it was yours? What if you betrayed yourself each time you silenced your instincts just to keep the connection alive? Each time you ignored the hollow space inside you that no amount of her attention could ever fill. Nietzsche wasn't warning you about women. He was warning you about yourself, about your hunger to be validated, your fear of solitude, your addiction to being mirrored back to yourself in the most flattering way. You were never tricked. You just didn't want to wake up. Not yet, because waking up means standing alone in the rawness of reality, without a script, without a savior, without a seductive reflection to comfort you. And that, Nietzsche believed, is the rarest courage of all. Now you know. You've seen the architecture of the illusion. You've traced its shadows from ancient myths to digital screens. You've felt the pull, the seduction, the control, and your own complicity in it. So what now? Nietzsche didn't believe in escape. He believed in transcendence, not in fleeing the illusion, but in rising above it, through awareness, through creation, through will. The Übermensch wasn't a man who rejected the game. He was the one who saw it for what it was and chose his own rules. So ask yourself, do you go back to the comfort of being chosen, admired, wanted by someone who reflects the best parts of you? Or do you risk standing in front of a mirror that shows you everything, flaws, fears, falsehoods, and still decide to walk forward? True power isn't resisting the spell. It's recognizing it, holding it in your hand, and choosing what it means to you. You are no longer the one being shaped. You are the one shaping. But creation requires responsibility, and freedom demands solitude. Most will return to the dream. Few will write their own. Which one are you? She didn't lie. She reflected. She gave you the version of yourself you were most desperate to believe in, and you thanked her for it. You called it love. You called it fate. But maybe it was just a mirror, a well-lit illusion. Now everything looks the same. Her smile, her eyes, her voice, only now you don't see her the same way. Now you see the spell, not broken, just understood. And maybe that's all truth ever was. Not a weapon, not a rescue, just a mirror turned back toward you. Nietzsche warned you. Now you know. What you do next is the only part that's truly yours. Now you know. The illusion, the archetypes, the hidden psychology. It was never just about her. It was about you. What you chose to believe, what you allowed to define you, and what you're willing to confront from this point forward. So here's the real question. Do you walk away unchanged? Or do you finally take back authorship over the story you've been trapped inside? If this made you think, even uncomfortably, then this channel is made for you. Subscribe for more explorations into the truths we're not supposed to see. Comment with what hit hardest. Like if you're done living under someone else's spell, because this isn't just content. This is the mirror. And now it's your move.